After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, "Where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw his star when it rose and have come to worship him." Well, when King Herod heard this, he was disturbed, and all Jerusalem with him. When he had called together all of the people's chief priests and teachers of the law, he asked them where the Messiah was to be born. "In Bethlehem in Judea," they replied, "for this is what the prophet has written. But you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For out of you will come a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod called the Magi secretly and found out from them the exact time the star had appeared. He sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go and search carefully for the child. As soon as you find him, report to me, so that I too may go and worship him." After they'd heard the king, they went on their way, and the star they had seen when it rose went ahead of them until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were overjoyed.
So in the passage that we had read before, it follows the wise men, sometimes called magi, from which we get the word magician. These were mystical people who would look to the stars and try and predict the future. And they'd look at ancient manuscripts as well and sacred scrolls. And these wise men realized that there was a new star, or a star that had risen. And they realized that they needed to go on a journey to find a king. They realized a king had been born, and they needed to follow that star to find the king. And so they packed their bags to go. They packed the important things. Boys and girls, I wonder what you would think of to pack. There are some essentials that you've got to pack, aren't there, for going on a journey, especially if it's a long journey. You might need you might need to be able to cook. So you might take with you a frying pan. You've got to take some food with you as well. So maybe, nothing better than hoops. Got to have your hoops. So maybe they took them. And of course, you've got to take some clothes. Got to take some warm clothes in case it's cold, like this morning. But maybe you might want to take your swimming trunks. Take them. So maybe the wise men, they were wise, so they would take trunks just in case. And, you've got to take Teddy, haven't you? So they packed their bag to go on a journey. And it would have been a long journey. They possibly went from what's today called Iran or Iraq and travelled all the way. It was a long journey that they would have gone on. And once they packed, they set out. Well, they tried to. They set out on their journey to go and find the king. And it would have been quite a long way. This maybe might have been how long they went. It says it's over 2,000 kilometres. That's 471 hours of solid walking, which might have taken, if you did that all in one go, that's like 20 days of solid walking. It probably took them a month to travel, at least. Travelling all that way to find the king. And at last they arrived in the land of Israel, where the star had led them. And they'd come to find a king, a new king. Now, if you were arriving in a new land that you didn't know, and you were trying to find a baby king who'd been born, I wonder where you would go in that land. Talk with the person next to you. Put yourself in their shoes. and say, where would you go? You're arriving in a new land. Where would you head? If you came to this land and you were trying to find a new baby king, where would you go? Talk to the person next to you. See what they think. Okay, what do you think? Where would you go to find a new king? What do you think? Someone put a hand out or shout out. We're not at school. Oh, no, we are at school. Where would you go to find a new king? A palace. Thank you. Any advance on a palace? Hospital. That's good. Works for the NHS. Very good. Sandringham. Today, maybe. Okay, you might go to a palace. You might go to the capital city of the country. Maybe that would be a first place to go. And that's where these wise men went. They went to Jerusalem. And they asked, where is the one who's been born king of the Jews? Now, Herod, who was king, wasn't happy with this. He heard them asking where a king had been born, but he was king. And he didn't want there to be another king. So he got together some really brainy people. He got together the big brains group. The people who would know things and who knew their Bibles. And he said to them, where is the Messiah born? Now, Messiah is another name for the king. It's God's forever king. And he said, where is this Messiah going to be born? And so these brainy people, they looked really carefully in their manuscripts and in their scrolls. And they looked in the Bible. And they found a prophecy in the Bible, which was 800 years old. And it was read for us this morning. It was in the book of Micah. And it says this. But you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For out of you will come a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel. They'd found it. They knew where to look. Bethlehem was the place to look. Bethlehem was the place to go. And did you see in the prophecy it says about the king being a shepherd, one who's going to look after people and bring them back to God, a shepherd who will care for people. This is going to be a king worth finding. And so they set out from Jerusalem to go to Bethlehem. And this is what it says. After they had heard the king, they went on their way, and the star they had seen when it rose went ahead of them until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were overjoyed. So the wise men set out again, and they followed the star again. Now we kind of think the star is kind of nice and sweet, pretty thing. You put one on the top of your tree maybe, and you think it's a cute kind of thing. But the star was a big deal. These wise men, they didn't have sat-nav. Maybe you follow sat-nav if you're going on a long journey in the car. They didn't have that. They had something more amazing. God moved a huge star in the galaxy. He moved millions and billions and trillions of tons of nuclear fire across the universe so that these wise men could find the king. It was like God's big signpost saying, here is my king. And that's pretty incredible, isn't it, that God would do that. If you've lost something and your mum helps you find it, you could say, Mum, you're good, but God's even better. He moved a star so that people would know where his king was. Now, I wonder how hard you're looking for the king. How hard are you looking? The wise men, you see, were desperate to find God's king. They travelled hundreds of miles, followed a star. They risked upsetting King Herod, and they studied 800-year-old prophecies. They did what it took to find Jesus. What about you? Are you looking for the king? God's forever king, who will bring people home to their loving God. How could you find him? Well, you could look in the Bible. That 800-year-old prophecy is still there in the Bible, and you could read it. And you could find out more about God's King by reading more of the Bible. The wise men, they travelled hundreds of miles. Well, you don't have to travel hundreds of miles. Maybe you did travel a long way to be here this morning, but it probably wasn't that far. But every week you could come here on a Sunday morning, 10:30, to find out more about God's King. And I think some people here this morning were invited by someone else. Maybe you were invited. They said, well, how about coming along? Come along to church, Christmas morning, come along. How about if you've been invited here, the person who invited you, how about if you said, can I take you out for a coffee in the new year, maybe? Take you out for a coffee and find out from them how they found Jesus, how they discovered him, who he is, what he came to do. Find the King. That's what the wise men did, and that's what we need to do.
Okay, so we're picking up on verse 9. After they had heard the king, they went on their way, and the star they had seen when it rose went ahead of them until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were overjoyed. On coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshipped him. Then they opened their treasures and presented him with gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh.
Thank you, Paul. So they found Bethlehem. They went there and found the King. They found Jesus. And they bowed down in worship before him. An amazing thing, isn't it? They bowed down in worship to this child, this baby, this boy. They bowed down before him in worship. And they gave him gifts that they brought with them. It wasn't Teddy. And it wasn't the clothes, no. And it wasn't no, not that. They'd have rummaged around, found the gifts of gold. And what was the next one? Thank you, frankincense. I haven't forgotten. It's just testing you. And then the last one. What was it? Myrrh. Myrrh. You never know how to spell it or say it. Myrrh. And they brought them out expensive, precious gifts that they gave to Jesus. And did you notice in the reading, there are 3 titles or names for Jesus that were used. We've seen them through the reading. The first one, they found the King and they worshipped the King. That's the second thing. They found the King and then they worshipped the King. Like I say, 3 names or titles for Jesus. First is King. Jesus is called a king. The wise men called him a king. When they went to Jerusalem, they said, where is the one who's been born king of the Jews? A king is a ruler, someone who reigns, rules over people. But he was also called Messiah. Do you remember I said that's God's promised forever king? In the Old Testament, it talks about a Messiah, a particular king who will come, who will be unlike any other king. He's not just king of one nation, one country, but the king of all countries and all people. And his reign won't just last for 10 years or 20 years or 100 years, but will last forever. And he'll be the perfect king. So it says in the Old Testament, in Isaiah, of the greatness of his government and peace there will be no end. He will reign on David's throne and over his kingdom, establishing and upholding it with justice and righteousness from that time on and forever. The zeal of the Lord Almighty will accomplish this. Did you hear in that reading? It says he's going to be the perfect king. He will have a kingdom which is known to be one of peace and justice, and it will go on forever. He's the forever King. And he's called a shepherd. One who's come to serve his flock, not himself. And that's what Jesus did. He came not to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. He came to be the good shepherd who gave his life for the sheep. Jesus loves us so much that just like a shepherd might put himself in harm's way to save his sheep, Jesus put himself through death for us, to rescue us. And it's a rescue we all need, because we all need rescuing from our sin. And Jesus came to do that for us. There is no one better to worship than Jesus. We should worship him too. Find the King and worship the King. The wise men went on an adventure that first Christmas. And people who want to understand Jesus, people who want to be like those wise men, that's what Christmas is about. It's about finding Jesus, the Christ, the King, the Messiah, the Shepherd, and worshipping him. The wise men wouldn't have felt like they belonged with God's people. They'd have felt like they were on the outside. But that didn't stop them finding and worshipping the King. Don't let it stop you. If you feel like you're a bit on the outside, not really one of God's people, don't let it stop you from finding the King and worshipping him, bowing before him. What does it mean to worship Jesus? Well, it's more than just giving him a one-off gift. To worship Jesus means more than just coming to church on a Sunday or on Christmas Day. It means making Jesus number one in your life. It means living for Jesus. So boys and girls, if you're fast, you'll want to win races for him. If you're an artist, you'll want to paint pictures or make music for him. If you're brilliant with people, you'll want to be friendly to people and kind to them for him. You'll want to do your work for him, your schoolwork for him, family time, sport, whatever it may be. You want to do it to glorify him. Whatever God has given you, we'll do it in thankfulness to him and use those gifts to show other people how brilliant our King is, how much he loves us, how he helps us as our shepherd. Worshipping Jesus, worshipping the King, is trusting him and bringing him our best every day. So, find the King and worship the King. He is definitely worth it.